Morning.
Let's see. It takes you usually like 10, 15. Morning. How's it
Hey, how you
going?
doing?
Good.
This chair sucks. It's sinking.
How's Kim? Doing good. How are you? Are we on? I think we're ready to go. We'd like to welcome everybody out to our Iron County Commission meeting this Monday, the 12th day of May, 2025. It's a little after 9 o'clock. Appreciate your attendance. We'll begin today with an opening prayer offered by Karsten Reed, our assessor. Following his prayer, Lori Eichelberger will lead us in the pledge.
Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this day and to have this public meeting where we can address the needs of the county and ask Thee to bless us with Thy Spirit that we can make proper decisions and be leaders in this county. Thankful for all of our blessings, especially thankful for the mothers and women in our lives, and ask Thee to continue to bless and sustain them. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll give you 1 minute. Sorry, I'm not the pro at this, you guys.
You're good.
We're a very patient group, at least with you.
Okay, it is going up. So
Okay.
I just had to go to a new screen. Thank
All
you,
right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'd like to excuse our clerk, John Whitaker. He's out of town, but appreciate you filling in for him. And we always appreciate having you here with us. Let's see. Let's go ahead and we need to approve. Do we have a set of minutes to approve? Or what's the date on those?
The 28th, April.
So everybody looked at the minutes?
Yes.
So I'll entertain a motion for April 28th minutes.
I'll move for approval of the April 28th minutes as they stand.
Second that motion. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. We also need to approve the warrants, and approval of claims for payment from April 28th through May 11th.
Make a motion to approve the claims for payment from April 28th to May 11th.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll go ahead and go to our departmental reports and start with our attorney. Sam, are you gonna?
5 minutes, he says.
5? Okay, we'll put him off. CJC. We have anybody here from the CJC?
Oh, maybe they're traveling together.
Okay.
I would guess they're either together.
Are they? Okay.
Lori, you
So
are-
Lori, you're up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lady?
should be pretty short and sweet. The first sheet there is regarding our budget, and we are on track. And I run this just based on the first quarter up through the end of March. From a staffing standpoint, we are still down one full-time position. Last time I spoke to the fact that we had decided to just work with what we have because we had two brand new judicial assistants and we were focusing on them. That is proving to be a good decision as they're both coming along. And we're just going to hold that position towards the end of the year. Because one of the things that we do have happening, as you're well aware, is the interlocal agreement with Parowan City. So July 1st, we will take over their caseload, and all new filings for Parowan will come to the Iron County Justice Court. As a matter of fact, Julie Sanders and I today are going to go spend a few moments with Keith, who is their judicial assistant, their clerk of court, and kind of see what we've got going. Other than the transition, I think the transition's going to be a little bumpy trying to figure all that out. But once we're in motion, I think it's just going to be easy because there's only about I think it was like maybe 540 cases last year that filed into the Parowan Justice Court. So that, and ours were close, we're between 10,000 and 11. So it's not really going to have an impact. Sam, I'll probably need to make sure that there's nothing to coordinate with you and, and Chad. Just our usual, like when we add a new, attorney. I mean, we'll just have to make sure that, that Mike Edwards is not, well, actually, it'll still be you, assigned to all those new cases that are coming over as the primary prosecutor. So there's just a lot of things to sort out. And Kim Zimmerman, who is with the AOC, is helping us with that, a checklist that we're kind of going through. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So budgetary, we're fine. The second sheet there is just a comparison of January through March from 2024 to 2025. And we're about 550 approximately cases off of filings from the year prior. That was through March. The only types of charges that seem to have been on the rise are the assaults and the domestic violence. They are up by 13 this year over last year, and assaults are up nine cases. Everything else is down. I think when you see the report, though, in August, we've got more filings starting to trend. And those figures there in green, the total number of cases for the year per chorus, those should have been red. I apologize. So they're down 532, and based on the citation filings, down 563. The revenue collected is down about 17,000, and what we've dispersed to the state's down 4,600 approximately, and what we've retained is down about 12,000. Again, just rounding. And then that last sheet there is just the one for your information that I always include regarding the citation filings. You just can get an idea of what the different LEAs are filing. We have the interlocal, obviously, with Cedar City, and they prosecute for SUU, and SUU citations have just increased a lot in the last year.
They're pretty active.
And that's about all I have.
Okay.
If you have any questions for me.
So 2024, is that comparative to the same time?
Time frame.
Time frame. Okay. So
Yeah, it's
actually-
January through March.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. And so when I see you in August, I will do January through January through June.
Seems like we're way down on moving violations. Huh? There's not as many tickets being written.
Yeah, but like I said, I think you're going to see that start to pick up. I mean, if you go down and you look at Highway Patrol for April, they were 456 citations written, and Iron County Sheriff's 358. I mean, that's quite a few for the sheriffs. So I think you'll start to see that balance out.
I already read that, Lori.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Trust me, I've got on my 2.5s.
Very good. Okay.
All right.
Thank you for the report.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you. Bye.
All right. Chad, you're up. You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Just wanted to give an update on kind of what we're looking at case-wise since January 1st. Pulled these on the 9th. Total criminal cases that we've had referred for prosecution, 621. 357 of those are district court. The rest would be juvenile and justice court cases. Our victim advocate since January has been assigned to 142 cases. And then I have a breakdown there of kind of the types of cases that we have. One thing that I noticed, that, obviously it's hard to point to trends this early compared to previous years, but our property crime cases have been down, but we've had more assaults than we have in the previous years. And then 2025 so far has been unique, where we've had 2 homicides that were right off of the bat in the early part of the year. So we had 2 separate homicides, 4 cases charged total out of that. Any questions about those breakdowns at all?
No.
Okay. 81 civil cases. Sam does a good job at tracking kind of the civil caseload, where he's reviewing contracts, drafting something. He keeps a tally of that. 206 cases filed in the Justice Court, 42 in our Juvenile Court. We currently have 30 participants in our drug court program, 20 participants in our mental health court program. We've had 2 felony jury trials so far this year. The good news on the personnel front is we finally are getting up to staff. We've had that open 6th position for a long time, and we got Joseph Massey hired. A nice kid from Vernal, grew up farming, driving truck, went back to law school in his 30s, passed the bar, and he just got sworn in on Friday. So we've been training him up. He's going to start taking cases. And then we extended an offer, and it was accepted by Joseph Sheahay. He's retiring from the Army, 24-year career as a JAG officer. So we're going to have 2 Joes in the office, so I think we're going to have to figure something out. We may call Sheahay Colonel, because he's a colonel. But he comes with a lot of experience, which is unique. Sometimes we're getting guys from brand new out of law school, but Sheahay, he's been a prosecutor, defense attorney through the JAG Corps.
Where at?
So he's been all over the place. Currently, he's in was it South Carolina?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. But he's been stationed just about everywhere. He's been deployed, but that's his current assignment is North Carolina. So he said he's eager to get back in the courtroom. He's been a supervising attorney for the last several years, so he wants to be back in the courtroom taking cases. So our part-time victim advocate position, we have interviews coming up. Going to get that filled. And then we were late today. I apologize. We have our newest legal assistant. It was her first day, so we were trying to get her situated before we just said, welcome, nice to meet you, see you. So we were getting her situated. So staffing-wise, we're looking better than we have in a very long time. So that's appreciated, and support from the commission there as well. Just wanted to talk about a few case highlights so far this year. Some of them that I just wanted to note, the good work being done is we had a repeat fentanyl dealer sent to prison for a minimum 5 years, conviction and prison sentence for possession of child pornography. Our work, we call it CSAM, which is child and sex abuse material. But that was a case that happened just a couple months ago. Child sex abuse case. It was a few years old, but finally resolved, ended in a conviction and sentence of a minimum of 13 years up to life. That was a county case out of Canaryville. Repeat DUI offender, felony DUI, was sent to prison. Really high BAC, and he had several priors, so that was one that was good to get that resolved. And then some, again, we've highlighted some of the increases in assaults and domestic violence. We had one case recently. It was a strangulation domestic violence case, and he was sent to prison. So when you look at some of them across the board, drugs, domestic violence, child sex abuse, and then public safety with DUIs, there's kind of a gamut there. And prison serves 2 purposes, right? It has incapacitating those who need to be off the streets and putting people away for a while where they could get some treatment. Some of these individuals that will get treated up there and integrate back into the community eventually. We'll have Sue come up and talk about the CJC, but she's been doing an excellent job up there. We have a good training coming up this week. I got to keep track. So we'll have her give an update. But any questions on anything with the county attorney's office?
No.
We appreciate the support of the commission, and like I say, the staffing, we're getting everybody trained up, and we're feeling good about where we're at. So we're hoping that takes some stress off the caseload. So appreciate you.
Good work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
Okay, CJC.
Hi, I'm Susan Carter. This is sorry for my scribbles. I wrote the interviews on the medical exam portion instead of interviews.
You're fine.
So for the CJC, the quarterly reporting has been completed for the grants. The symposium's coming up the end of this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's 17 people attending from Iron County, and 5 of them are from our office. The CPS, law enforcement, DCFS, the same nurses will be attending, and this symposium is completely full. I hear it's really good things about this symposium. For the Friends Board, events and things that have been going on, they're coming up. The 5K will be coming up in June. I've been meeting with the Friends Board and a few other contractors. The Friends Board is working on getting a security gate for the CJC. So it'll go right up where the block wall comes, the driveway comes up. The gates will go there. It'll be open during business hours, but closed after. Enoch Police Department will have a code so they can access it if there was something that went on. But we'll have fobs and entrance and access for that. So they're currently working on those gates. They're also working on adding asphalt on the driveway up, and they want to do that on the west side to extend that asphalt so there's more parking when we have meetings and that we need more parking. And then they're also working on a flagpole, a really big flagpole, which will be really nice at the center. The staff is amazing. They've done a really good job in just keeping up with their duties and the way they handle themselves. So back to the statistics that you have in front of you. I don't know how much you want me to go over, but you can see that with interviews, we've already had 12 this month, and it's barely the 12th. So I'm guessing that May is going to be a busy month. And so there's 103 interviews that have been done this year so far. Medical exams, I don't have how many interviews or medical exams that were done this month, but so far they have 18 this year that have been done on medical exams. Medical exams are offered to every person that's interviewed, so they have an option to have a medical exam or not. So they have 18 of those, and we currently have 2 contracted therapists that do the therapy work for the clients, and we need to work on maybe adding another one, doing an RFP to add another contract with another company. PB&J is 3 to 4 months behind on a wait list, and so that's a lot for people to wait. And A Mindful Life is the other one, the second one that does the interviews. Do you guys have any questions for me?
No, just thank you.
You're welcome.
My interaction there is always awesome. I really appreciate you guys, both on the commission side and the law enforcement side,
Yeah, it's
for sure.
great to see how everybody works so well together. MDT meetings, the advisory board meetings, just the care that everyone has for Iron County and the kids, and it's great. So thank you to
Thank
the
you very much.
commissioners as
Thank you.
well.
Appreciate you.
So, thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
I guess we're to commission, right? Thanks for coming.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Commissioner Blake, do you want to go?
Sure. So I met with the new HOA leadership with Cedar Highlands. They've kind of had a shakeup in their HOA. Got a new HOA president, vice president, who asked for a meeting to talk about just various issues up there, emergency response, roads, some things like that. That meeting went really well. They're researching. So there's a resolution from the county back when Cedar Highlands was first developed that talks about when they reach 50% occupancy, that the county will have some responsibility, not necessarily responsibility, but at that time they can look at a special improvement district or something to have the county take care of the roads. And that was signed by Pug Urey a long time ago. Anyway, and there's some other documents that they're kind of researching, and I told them that I would research them on our side as well.
So would that be similar to what we did out to
Sunset.
Wichita, Sunset
Yeah.
Canyon? Well, we'd go on their taxes, we'd do a bond and,
Yep, something like
and
that.
just chip seal it, or
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a cool thing because they're like, hey, look, we realize this can't happen overnight. We're looking at a 10-year plan. We're trying to put in a phased plan of improvements. These guys are really good. They're both kind of retired engineers, and they see the need to move forward because it has become a full-time. I mean, it's a full-time community. Anyway, it was just a really productive meeting, and they're going to share some information with me. I'll research it, and we'll get it figured out. But there's nobody yelling and screaming. In fact, they've told the yellers and screamers to knock it off. They'll handle it. So it was very refreshing, and these guys are really good. So I met with them. I've got a to-do list. Sat down with Danny from the Inland Port, just kind of a one-on-one to talk about some of the things moving forward with the port, as well as kind of a coordination with economic development, which we can talk about more offline. George and I attended a mass fatality conference in Salt Lake for 2 days in conjunction with the medical examiner, emergency managers. The state has a bunch of resources that they were introducing to the emergency managers, one being a portable morgue. And we have a portable body storage facility in Iron County. The state has gotten a full-blown morgue. As part of the exercise, we set that up in the parking lot. And they said, well, as long as it's set up, let's test it out. So we did an autopsy in the parking lot. It was interesting. They also brought in canines, different canines that are trained to do different things, whether it's like a building collapse and you're looking for survivors, or a building collapse, earthquake type situation and you're looking for fatalities, or like crime scene stuff with bodies that are older. There's different sets of dogs for each thing. They're not really cross-trained. They're just experts. We met the dogs, did some canine demonstrations.
Are those provided by the state available to us?
And the ones most of them are through FEMA. FEMA Task Force 1 is located in Salt Lake. So those resources, there are state resources. There's a couple of like 501c3 resources. But yeah, those are, we can deploy those. We can get those deployed at no cost to us anytime that we need them. So that was good to meet firsthand and press flesh with those guys so that we start building a relationship if we need those type of things. We had the airport terminal ribbon cutting for the new terminal. We now have 2 gates. We have full restroom facilities. I think we can accommodate about 250 people in the terminal instead of 40 like before. It's just going to be really great. That really paves the way to look at a second airline or additional flights, that we have the infrastructure to do that.
did that help with getting an early flight? 'Cause that's the
Yes.
that's the kicker.
Oh, that's the kicker. Yeah. And SkyWest has said that they're working on that. We met once, and they were really having a pilot shortage. The pilot shortage has kind of solved itself, but Delta, so they kind of had a bunch of planes mothballed, waiting, until they could get their pilots built up. But now to be a Delta connection, you have to offer a first class service. And so they're having to retrofit all of their planes with first class cabin. And that's taking some time. So they have to offer first class as a Delta connection. So they're having to retrofit all of those planes to bring them back into service. So the SkyWest is they're committed to better flight service out of Cedar City once they get everything caught up. And, I met with James Jetton from the Karen Share. I met with he and George actually to talk about, if you remember the Code Blue legislation from a couple of years ago, where if the temperature dips below 18 degrees, shelters or county facilities can't turn anyone away. 18 degrees is the number that's put on that, and it's managed by someone sitting at a computer at the Department of Health that looks at the national forecast, and they have one pinpoint in the county. They said if it reaches 18 degrees and it's somewhere in the Parowan Valley,
So you put it out there west of Paraguna, that's almost a nightly occurrence.
yes, and that's kind of where that's the problem. It might be 18 degrees at the Gap, and it's 25 degrees in Cedar, but yet we're still put under Code Blue restrictions, which for that day and 3 days following, we have to provide shelter. But it was, and you weren't here, Ken, but that's a couple of years ago, but there is no funding to go with that. So it was an unfunded mandate. So the Karen Share, people now know about that. So, and they're regularly full. And on those Code Blue days, they have anywhere from 20 to 25 people come for shelter. And they just don't have the space. So we just said that we would work with them, with our federal partners, state partners, just see if we can see if there's any kind of funding out there that would help them. They've got about 5 acres of property that they sit on that's empty out back, that they're looking at some kind of shelter. Anyway, we told them we'd help them work through that. The other issue is Cedar City Karen Share has become a dumping ground. When patients, and it's been a problem with Cedar City Hospital. They've kind of worked that out a little bit, but they've got patients that are discharged from St. George that they just automatically send them here. Their shelters in St. George won't take them. There's been issues where, and it's not just St. George, there's other hospitals, even in Utah County, that'll call and say, look, we've got somebody, they've got a little bit of anxiety, they don't have any serious medical conditions, we really need a place. And they'll say, okay, we do have a room, it's upstairs and a top bunk. They're like, no problem. And then people show up that are amputees on oxygen, like people are basically just lying to get them in it, and we're turning into a dumping ground. And these people really need better services. I've got George working on some meetings with the involved parties that we can. They just said, hey, we may have a little bit better success if we have the support of the county commission, maybe to help guide those meetings. And so said, yep, we'll be happy to do that. Had a tourism coordination meeting with Maria, talked about gun range, opening of the parks. There's probably going to be some issues, we talked about with Mr. Brower. It definitely needs to have some ongoing discussion. I met with Paraguna Fire just to coordinate with them a little bit. I wasn't able to attend the last chief's meeting, so I'm trying to make it around and just talk with the different fire departments to make sure that if there's anything that we can do to help them coordinate. Attended the RTEC meeting for a short time, had to leave the RTEC meeting to go to the Cedar City Fire Department budget hearings with the city council and the mayor. I addressed the city council along with Rob Dotson, Tyler Allred, and George spoke for a few minutes. We've been coordinating over the last year for what we feel is appropriate in the fire department's budget, knowing that we as a group contribute about 41% of their budget. So we as partners have an opportunity to address the Cedar City Council during those budget hearings to show our support for that plan that we've worked out through the year through our partnerships. Skip over some of this. So the tourism last Friday held an open house. It was Tourism Week. I wasn't able to attend that open house, but I've had a bunch of people reach out to me saying how good it was, what a good job Maria did with putting on the tourism open house. Even though I wasn't able to attend, I've had a lot of feedback on that. That's it.
Thank you. Ken?
We had a meeting with the firm that's putting together a 25-year plan and drawing for the fairgrounds. They presented a couple of different ideas and drawings of what we could do there. One was having the indoor arena and barn on the east side of the existing arena. And the next one was having that on the west side of the arena. Both had their pluses and minuses. They showed an amphitheater up against the old building with two designs, one with the stage on the south side and one with the stage on the north side. So there was some good conversation going on and back and forth on that. Unfortunately, I was trying to sit in two meetings at that time, and so I was missing quite a bit of both of them.
It was me at the RTEC. I was listening to I had a Zoom call on while listening to Dan present about Parowan South Interchange.
Yeah. So
hard.
there was some good conversation there and some good follow-up conversation that's been happening since then, and we have another meeting coming up here in a couple weeks. But the other meeting that was going on at that time was down at the Dixie Center in St. George that I was there. It's natural resources. They had different entities there to present. The BLM had the interim director of the BLM seemed very favorable to the conditions that we have out in the West. He's from Nevada, from what I gathered, and had been over the ranges in Nevada, so he seemed very very good for our situation. One of the presenters at that meeting was the CIB, and there was a conversation brought up about the solar farms and why they are being exempted from putting into the CIB fund. And so that's something that we're going to address and need to address to make sure that even though that they're not fossil fuels, they need to be putting into that CIB fund. And so I think that could be very advantageous for us as the state's leader in acreage of solar farms, that we could gain some benefit from pursuing that.
They could use it.
Yeah. Had a meeting at the jail site. We've changed that to Tuesdays now instead of Thursdays, so Tuesday afternoon. But things are going along good there. They'd been slowed down a lot because of the weather and the rain and the moisture. But they're cruising along with that. went to the RTEC meeting and had that and got a good update from everything that's going on in around the surrounding area. Most of everything that's going on is here in Parowan. Most of the issues were related to Parowan and off-ramps and new gas stations in town and those kinds of things. And then I spent a lot of time the last week plus chasing issues with the solar farms, with dust control, vegetation control, whether they're allowing grazing or not, and then going back into some of those conditional use permits. Most of those, I shouldn't say it that way, I'll be correct. The original one from the one here in Parowan, there was no grazing mentioned in the conditional use permit, and now they're not wanting to allow grazing on that. And it was agreed upon, kind of a handshake deal from what I understand back when that was done, that they would continue to allow grazing. The issue with these solar farms is they are sold multiple times. As soon as one company reaps the benefit of having green energy, they turn around and sell it to the next one that needs that tax break. And so they're just, unless it's specifically written in there, and we're researching that, trying to find the minutes and those kinds of things to see what exactly was agreed upon. But in the conditional use permit, there's nothing in there for grazing. So we need to be more cognizant of how those conditional use permits are written up precisely to allow for that. And also for the weed control. The original ones were kind of a handshake deal. Yeah, well, it's great. We'll use everybody in Iron County. The county will get the benefit from the sale of the chemical and the service of providing that. But that is not written out or spelled out in the conditional use permit, and so they've moved on from that as new owners. So we've got entities coming in, and we're looking for spray reports to see exactly what they've been spraying, whether they are selective herbicides that will maintain that vegetation, or whether they're unselective herbicides which will just clear the vegetation. So there's some back office work being done on that, trying to chase that down. So that's what I've got.
Okay, thank you. All right, I've got a few things. I missed the RTEC meeting. I was out of town. I went to the NatCon conference. That's in relation to my duties on the 5-county behavioral health board. They pay for that trip. It was very beneficial. It is every year where we learn about mental health issues in the county and different issues. It was held in Philadelphia this year, and it was a really worthwhile trip. So a lot of my week last week was taken up with that, and a little before that. I attended the Farm Bureau meeting this week. There's a lot of discussion about our producers, especially the sheep industry, are really hurting. The prices are way down. President Trump did some reciprocal tariffs with New Zealand and Australia and some other countries, but it's mostly New Zealand and Australia. Australia is really flooding our market with lamb. If you go up to Lynn's and buy lamb, it most likely comes from New Zealand, not our mountain. And that's a problem. So the tariff probably needs to be more like 20 or 30% to really help them. And there also probably needs to be some limits on the number of imports they can have, some quotas. And I know there's been a lot of trips to Washington D.C. talking about that. I talked to Commissioner Taylor on her trip back to Philadelphia. They're actually in D.C. I think this week, talking with some individuals back there about decreasing some of the parks, namely the Bears Ears and the Grand Staircase, Escalante Park. That's been it's really tough because as administrations change, it's just with executive orders, the Antiquities Act, they'll enact that wilderness area or whatever, and then it's just a kind of a ping pong ball depending on what administration's in there at the time. But they're working on that. Attended government affairs meeting. That's in relationship to the home builders and other entities in the county. That's always beneficial. I attended the 5 Mile open house where they cut the ribbon for that. That was really a good experience. They've done a terrific job. Mike Worthen and Maria's group. Just a beautiful site. They've cleared out so much timber, and with the stream being rerouted over against that South Hill, we did a lot of work when Curtis DeMille worked for us years ago. We did a lot of work and moved that stream over, hopefully to mitigate the potential flooding in the future, because that's why the Forest Service abandoned that, was because there was such a bad flood. It almost covered the picnic tables with mud and debris. And so it's open, day use only. I talked to Brooke Shakespeare, who's he replaced Veronica. She retired, and that's the first time I've met Brooke. He's a really nice guy. He said their legal department still they used to be overnight camping there, but it's just day use only because of the potential liability, I guess, to the Forest Service. They may not ever let us have overnight. If we ever did that, he talked about they might start working on actually getting another well drilled and an actual water system done, because the water that's there isn't suitable for potable use. And so the water we do use, we have to haul, which can get cumbersome and expensive. So that was good. One thing that Brooke did talk about when I visited with him is he talked about, I think he's really proactive on timber control and veg treatments. He talked about going in underneath cedar breaks where that national or that wilderness area, maybe in the wintertime, using helicopters and going to do some prescribed burns to reduce that fuel load, so that when that does ever catch on fire, it doesn't destroy that whole area. And because it's gotten built up so much because of the wilderness area. So that's good. I think he's really proactive on that, which really will help our watershed and other things as well when they do good controls there. I couldn't attend UAC, but I did attend the meetings via Zoom. I attended the Natural Resources meeting that Ken mentioned. That was good. I also attended the UAC board meeting. There was a discussion in that meeting, and we need to talk about that as maybe administrative discussion. They're talking about possibly hiring an attorney to work for UAC. It'd be about a $10,000 charge to each county, each of the 29 counties. They're talking about hiring Eric Clark, who is moving to Salt Lake. He's been the county attorney for Washington County. And he's a great attorney, and they're talking about using him and just as a backstop, if we have other legal issues we need help with, we can use that resource. We need to decide if we want to participate that in our board meeting. The temperature of the room was that it would be a good thing. I talked to Sam, who thought it could be a good thing. I don't know if you have any more to add to that, Sam, but that's something we can look at. I'm still working on the water wells in Modena and Lana. I reached out to the real estate person for Union Pacific. He's working on that and still in the process of maybe deeding those wells over to the county so those folks don't lose their water out there. Let's see. As far as behavioral health, we've got those meetings this week for 5 county behavioral health and human services. On the human services side, Derek Morton has stepped down as our representative from Iron County, and they've appointed James Jetton, who's the executive director for the Care and Share. So he'll serve on that board. Just going back to our trip to Philadelphia on Sunday, we didn't have any meetings, and Commissioner Taylor and I and our wives drove to Washington, D.C., and had an opportunity to tour the West Wing of the White House. That was really a special experience to do that. And then we toured the Eisenhower building. Commissioner Blake, I think, you've been there, and yeah, we saw the famous fire alarm.
Yes, I have.
So
Since it came up, I may text right
Darren,
now.
we got a picture to send it to him.
Former Commissioner Bushman about that
But
national security incident that he incited.
that's a beautiful. It's really interesting back there. They have an office. My sister's office is right there in the West Wing, right in front of the Vice President's office. So he has an office in the West Wing, and then he also has an office in the Eisenhower building, which is a larger room, so they can do more ceremonial things in there. And so he's got a desk in both, and that was really cool. And that's a really neat building, that Eisenhower building as well. On the way we stopped in Annapolis, Maryland. It's the oldest functioning state house in America, where the legislature meets, and it's also the building where George Washington resigned his commission to the Continental Congress after the Revolutionary War. And what was cool is while we were in Philadelphia after dinner one night, we walked over and saw the Independence Hall where the Continental Congress asked him to serve. So we saw, and it's about an 8.5 year period between that building and that building. It was kind of cool to witness where it started and where it ended. And there's a quote out there that says that there was a painter that told King George III that Washington was going to step down and go back to his farm and not be a monarch or a king and relinquish his power. And the King George, it's rumored that he said if he does that, he will be the greatest man in the world. And so it was, as you look at the historical things that happened back then in that time period, it's really inspiring to see those things and pretty special. So, but that's all I have.
I got one thing I forgot. Are you guys aware of the? Let me get the right. Hold on. Right verbiage. Hold on. There's a meeting this afternoon at SUU with the House Natural Resources Subcommittee. Are you guys familiar with that?
I saw a social media post on that, and does that start at 12?
It starts at 2.
2?
I'm going to attend if we have the opportunity. I think we need to get as many folks as we can. The hearing is actually focused on geothermal, which mostly affects Beaver County. But SUA and some of those other folks are going to use that as a platform to protest the federal government turning over federal lands to states.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're blowing that way out of proportion, aren't they?
Way, and it's
crazy.
In fact, their post. I have a copy of their post. It's the Grand Staircase Partners. I'll read the end of it. Just this week, Utah Rep. Malloy, Nevada Rep. Mark Amoti introduced an amendment to sell off more than 11,000 acres of public lands in Utah and thousands more in Nevada without public input or environmental review. These lands include areas next to Zion National Park, Beaver Dam, Wash National Conservation Area, the Virgin River outside of Las Vegas. Their proposal passed in committee, but the fight isn't over. Let's show up in force to say public lands are not for sale.
It's in the Charlon Smith Center.
I think so. Yeah.
Is it Charlon Smith?
Let me look.
And it's at 2:00.
It's at 2:00.
Yeah.
Okay. And does it list the location then?
That's what I'm looking. No, I can find out the location, but it's.
If you can find out, text it to us.
Yeah, I'll figure it out right now.
Okay.
Anyway, that's
All right.
That's at 2:00 this afternoon.
All right. Is there anything we've missed? Not. We'll go ahead and dismiss until our 10:00 meeting. What time is it? It's 9:50. So we should be good to be back here right at 10:00.
No, it's creepy. I like the people.
All right. Looks like we're ready to go. We'd like to welcome everybody to our 10 o'clock meeting of our county commission this April the 12th, or I mean Monday the 12th of April, yes. Or May, call 'em off. Sorry. We will begin with item number 1, which is a public hearing, discussion, and possible approval of a proposed zone change from residential 2 acres, R2, to light industrial, LI, for approximately 4.02 acres within the description listed in the agenda. Applicant is Deb Nelson. Reed?
Good morning, Commissioners. When this started out, it was just this single parcel. I'll zoom into it a little bit. We're looking right at the Y here, just on the west side or east side of the 5700 belt route. So we zoom in. This little red parcel right here was a 2-acre parcel. The colored area, or the shaded area in black with a black border, is the city boundary. So it's adjacent to Cedar City, right at the Y. And this 2-acre parcel was what was originally requested. When we started evaluating that, we determined that there's another 2-acre parcel just to the north of that that's also zoned R2. And so we approached the property owner, which is Cole Ashdown, and asked him if he would like to be included in that rezone, because it's difficult to leave a little residential piece. He's using it as residential currently. And he said that he would agree to have that property rezoned. It makes sense to not have a residential piece there in the middle of all of that light industrial. And he would agree to rezone that. We will give him a letter explaining the non-conforming use, that his property can continue to be used for residential as long as it continues voluntarily, and he agreed to consider that in the zone change. So that's why we're requesting both of these parcels for a 4.02 acre zone change, and that will put everything in light industrial in that area. We also discussed the challenges of having frontage right now. Those properties both take access off of 5700 West, which will be the belt route, and would not provide access to those properties if we can come up with another access. So Deb Nelson is working to try to bring access in from the east side of those properties off of 5375 West, and they can come in along the bottom there. We'll continue to work on that, but it would also match better with what the Cedar City has planned for the future if those properties were to annex. So adjacent to that, the current zoning is annex transition, and their master plan, as you can see right here on this, is to be a industrial and heavy manufacturing district. And so certainly the residential wouldn't be as useful there either in the future. So all said, it made a lot of sense to include the additional parcel. So went from the 2 acres to 4 acres. They have no central sewer there. The water is on a private water system as part of that subdivision there. And there's a neighbor that runs that. She sent a comment over the weekend on Saturday, and I've just forwarded that to you this morning in your email. Her name is Christine Hunter, and she just had a couple of concerns about those properties being zoned light industrial, because she lives on the west side of 5700 where those properties are zoned residential 5. And she's just concerned about those properties going to light industrial because the Big Ben's storage that is also light industrial has a lot of lights, and we're working with them. It's quite bright, so she just wanted to make sure that those properties would comply with the ordinance for their setbacks, and that they wouldn't rely on their private water system for the development of those properties. They'd have to hook onto the Water Conservancy District, and so she was concerned about the water and the capacity of their system, the lighting, and then the condition of 5700 West, that because of the uses of that is kind of broken that road down because of all of the heavier use there, and so she's concerned about that because they use it as access as well. And we explained what the future of the belt route would be and how that would allow for an access for them to come around from their property, but we would try to eliminate those accesses right off 5700. So the Planning Commission, she was there at the meeting and expressed those concerns, and we tried to alleviate her concerns and told her that if certainly those properties as they developed would be obligated to comply with the ordinances and should be not a problem for them, and we'll work on the lighting as well. So that's kind of a rundown of the property and the surrounding properties. Unless you have any questions, I think we can go to public hearing.
Very good. Any questions before we go into public hearing?
No.
All right. Chair declares a public hearing for this item number 1. If you have a comment, if you could approach the mic and state your name. Seeing no comments, we'll close the public hearing, and Reed, you can wrap it up.
Of course, we always evaluate these considerations, the evaluation considerations when looking at zone changes. I always bring it up because it's part of our findings. Even though it's not a criteria list to qualify, it's the things that we look at, because for zoning we look at feasibility. Is it feasible to do the things that that zone would allow? Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have access? Do we have the kinds of things that they can take care of if that property were to be rezoned? The Planning Commission recommended that it be rezoned, that it does the findings that are sufficient for that property to serve those uses that are in the light industrial zone, and so they recommended approval for the 4.02 acres.
Very good. Okay. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion on item number 1.
All right, I would move for approval of zone change from residential 2 acres R2 to light industrial LI for approximately 4.02 acres within the legal description provided in the agenda, located near 450 North, 5700 West in Cedar City.
Second that motion.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Number 2, public hearing. Discussion and possible approval of a proposed zone change from agriculture 20 acres A20 to light industrial LI for approximately 224.22 acres within the description on the agenda. And this is located near 5900 West to 6900 West, Silver Hills Parkway, Cedar City. Applicant is Fiddler's Canyon LLC. And Goal Civil Engineering is the engineer. Reed, go ahead.
We have a similar situation in that the request was smaller than what now is being proposed by the Planning Commission. We're including an additional 20 acres that was isolated and surrounded and would become an island of A20. And so the original request was for 204 acres, but the Planning Commission recommended that we rezone 224. We have spoken with that property owner as well. This is located just a little bit further west than what we were just talking about. And the property is outlined in red. You can see there's just a little bit of a piece that drops down, in fact, outlined here. This is the zoning map, and you can see with the rezoning of this property to light industrial, which is the light blue, everything around it is zoned light industrial. We contacted the property owners, Alan and Leanne Price. They had purchased this property a few years ago as an investment property. They recognized and agreed that it would be wise to include that in the rezone. They didn't have intention to use it as a residential property, and their recognition that zoning it to light industrial would remove the ability to live on and have a residence on that property, because residential is not allowed in light industrial. And so they felt like the best interest would be for them to also be rezoned light industrial, and we're in favor of being included. As you can see, all of the properties to the east and south are all zoned light industrial. We did that recently as those properties have been developing. You can see Silver Hills Parkway is the main road here that comes off of Iron Springs and runs across. That road has all been developed, and continue to break off 5-acre parcels along here for light industrial. And the interest now has been that they've brought a water line from the Water Conservancy District off of Iron Springs Road down through and clear to the south, clear down to Highway 56, and serves that whole area as light industrial. So it's turned into a light industrial a park, if you will, an area that is serving for smaller light industrial lots that seems to be conducive for that area, especially since water is now available. We have fire flow and water off the Conservancy District, and so it makes those a lot more likely to be developed as light industrial properties. The Conservancy District is serving water onto the property. They are on septic. I put a note on there that the distance from available sewer is a consideration, and depending on how large the development would be in that area, because sewer is now available and becoming in the BZI Innovation Park and becoming available on Iron Springs Road, if a subdivision were to come in with a large enough property dividing small enough to have enough lots that the distance to that available sewer is within 150 feet times the number of lots in the subdivision, they would be required to run sewer to that development. And so that is a consideration in this area. Again, we're just kind of talking through all those things that are on the list of considerations. Available water, sewer, it's very flat out there, drainage, but there is good access. The good access roads to serve the area, and so it is conducive to light industrial development. I think it will continue to work well, and as we get more development there, that'll bring the sewer in and even make it more likely to continue to see more development in that area. Are there any questions before public hearing?
No. All right, Chair declares the public hearing open for item number 2, as discussed. Anybody like to talk about that? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Again, the considerations, I'm always there, and I'm open to discuss any questions you may have or believe any considerations there that we haven't talked about sufficiently. We go through this list in greater depth with staff and with the Planning Commission, but we wanted to make you aware that those are the things that we consider as zone changes are requested. So the Planning Commission recommended approval for the 224 acres, including the 20 acres that would be otherwise an island of A20, and so that's the recommendation from the Planning Commission. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on item number 2.
I'd make a motion to approve the zone change from agricultural 20 acres to light industrial for approximately 224.22 acres within the legal description on the agenda, located near 5900 West to 6900 West, Silver Hills Parkway, Cedar City, Utah.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Reed. We'll go to number 3. Public hearing, discussion, and possible approval of a proposed zone change from agriculture 20 acres to intensive agriculture IA for approximately 87.58 acres. Within the description listed in the agenda, this is located near 1600 South, 500 West, Burl, Utah. Applicant is Escalante Farms, LLC, Bar 5 Holdings, Jared Holt.
This is located just off of the Highway 18, south of the Burl Junction on the west side of Highway 18 as it goes down towards Enterprise. The property described here, you can see, is private. The closest BLM over on the left to the west, and State Trust Lands is in the blue. So there's a large amount of private property all around there. You can see all of the pivots as a heavily used agricultural area. And this is the zoning of the area. This is the property outlined in red, with some commercial kitty corner to the southeast, and then other along Highway 18, other smaller lot residential along the highway with some commercial intermixed in there. And the map, I just wanted to show what this property in relation to the other properties that are also serving for this same use. So the properties with the stars that are in the green are properties that have previously been rezoned to intensive agriculture, which are part of the same operation for the Holt Dairy and Escalante Farms and Barvey Holdings, the name
The dairy.
the largest one, to the closest to Newcastle on the east. You can kind of see the bays and the area for the dairy sits right here. Their housing is along here, and their feeding operation is here. A couple of years ago, they built another lagoon out here to the west, and so we rezoned another property. You'll recall the most recent zone change was an addition of 70 acres here on the south, because that was going to be the location of their digester, and then they've amended that to include it in the same location as their old lagoons. As part of that digester system and what they've been trying to do for better waste management out there and to better control the odors is to add the digester system and to allow to capture a lot of the gases that are responsible for most of the odor. That was also part of the purpose of the lagoon that was built to the west. Now at this new location, they're also interested in developing another sewer lagoon for what they call staging lagoon, which allows them twice a year to pump from the other facilities after the water's come through the digester and most of the gases have been pulled off. Then they can send it out to land apply. Under the nutrient management plan that they're operating, which is controlled by NRCS and approved by them, their suggestions were to do this kind of thing to help with the odors in the area and to better land apply. And so the area around the property has already been approved for land application. This request to rezone the property so the lagoon can be built there allows the effluent to be put into the facility twice a year. It wouldn't be the intent to keep sewer in that facility all the time, but they would run it into there, and it would have a lot less total dissolved solids in there, TDS, so that it wouldn't be a stinky, wouldn't have an odor problem when it is dry, because they would be able to pump that out onto the properties around there. I don't know if Jared is here, is on his way. Jared Holt is probably get here just about the time we finish. But it explains it as an opportunity to try to reduce the amount of time that they're land applying. Right now they have a more limited capacity and can only put it into certain areas, and it takes about 20 days in the fall and 20 days in the spring to get that effluent out. And so what happens when they hold it all winter and then try to put it out in the spring, it's more concentrated, especially now that the digester isn't finished. They're constructing the digester, and it should be in place by the time that they get this lagoon built and can use them in conjunction with each other. But they only land apply to certain crops. Triticale is the main thing that they do with it. It's a better uptake for the nitrates that come out of the effluent, and they don't put it on the alfalfa, they don't put it on corn, and so this facility allows them to move it out on larger areas and put it through their LISA drip systems so that it's not autonomized and it doesn't mist out into the air. So it goes down into the ground, reduces the odors that way. And so in combination with spreading it around further in other areas, with the digester, with this new facility, with the way they irrigate, in all combination, theoretically should reduce the odors in that area, because now they can reduce the amount of land application by half. They can take it down to 10 to 12 days in the spring and 10 to 12 in the fall instead of 40 throughout the year.
I had a couple calls, concerned about the smell, and I was sorry I couldn't make that. I had another commitment, but I couldn't make the planning commission. But I suppose that all came up?
Yes, it did. Jeremy Hunt was there,
Jeremy
and
was
he
the one I
expressed some good concerns. There was another property owner who has property just over a little bit to the east and expressed some of those concerns. And I, would be concerned if I were a property owner out there. Because of the history. And so I think what we're trying to do here, and the reason that it sounds like we're supportive of this, it is an application, but we're also recognizing that it's an attempt to try to improve the
They
situation.
must really be able to screen that well to go through their Lisa system without plugging it up.
Yeah, they do. It removes a lot of this, especially with the new digester. But
That's great.
it, the shorter time of application, the type of application, and the digester is going to help, I think, a fair amount to reduce some of those
So
odors.
most were happy, or at least
They're understood
Understood
that it's an
well.
attempt
Maybe
to,
not happy, but
yeah.
just understood.
I don't think anyone's happy when those sprinklers come on and they can start smelling it. But with the type of the drip, the Lisa drips help a lot.
That'll help.
Not autonomize that water and have it mist out into the air. It doesn't carry as far. Doesn't. Therefore, the odor doesn't carry as far, and they're able to land apply it more strategically now this way because they have more accessibility for other pivots and can get it out on the land much quicker in their rotations. So that's the purpose of the request. The Planning Commission did also grant a conditional use permit for Type 6 animal operation, which is what this lagoon is for as part of that facility, contingent upon the zone change being approved so that it wouldn't have to come back and then they could get started. So kind of just an overview of some of those issues out there. It's in a Tier 4 area. Is permitted through DEQ. Any sewer lagoon and treatment facility is administered through Water Quality and Air Quality Division of DEQ. They are in compliance with their nutrient management plan, and this is one of the recommendations that NRCS came back with, was to do another staging facility and be able to get it out in other locations so that they wouldn't take as long to get it out on the ground and could be more specific in where they apply it, so that it could be the uptake could occur more quickly than just putting it on any of the other properties. So I think that is kind of a general rundown. Unless you have other questions, I think we're ready for public hearing.
Nope. No question.
No, I chased this too with a bunch of phone calls to the Department of Agriculture, see if there's any standard of smell or anything like that that they would have to comply to, and there's not, so.
Well, we do in the ordinance, and we've reviewed that as staff, we do have what's called an odor committee when there are complaints that we can organize. We've not done one before, but I think this is going to be a much better situation than what we had before, and I think anything that we can do to help encourage improvements it's a substantial investment for the property owners to put these facilities in, and I think that they've tried to be good neighbors and good stewards out there. That it does smell. It is part of the industry, and to try to reduce that with the digester and to try to spread it, I think will improve and help the situation.
Just out of curiosity, does this satisfy most of the fertilization needs they have on the soil, or do they still have
For
to
those
It's a good
particular
start.
crops,
It's
it
They
does.
still have to add to it with others. Okay.
Um,
Potassium, whatever they use.
Yeah, it depends on the crop and when they can get it on and what all combined they do with it. But where they could just try to put it on the triticale because that can absorb the nitrates much faster than alfalfa or corn or anything else.
One of the other concerns I had was that there's check valves on their water system to make sure none of that's getting.
That was brought up at the Planning Commission meeting, and they will install those as part of their system so that there isn't any backflow that goes down into the wells or access any of the other. One thing I failed to mention is one of the things that this lagoon will also help them do, and the reason that it's so much better for land applications is that they can dilute it. They were thinking like 10-1 compared to what they're putting out now. They're putting out at a much higher concentration. With the lagoon, where they can pump water in and then put this and add with it, it will mix it and dilute it substantially. And so it'll allow them to apply to more places at a lower concentration and will help with odors as well. So I think there are 3 or 4 things at play there that will help alleviate some of the concerns.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Reed. We'll go ahead and open public hearing on agenda item number 3 for those that would like to speak to this. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and Reed, you can wrap it up.
Again, the considerations for zoning for intensive agriculture, it meets a lot of those considerations. All of the things that they would intend to do in an intensive agricultural area are provided for there with their access, with power, with the availability of their infrastructure to pipe and get the water out of those other locations. And so I think it works well for the area and was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the zone change from, are we on the right one? Yes. Approve the zone change from agricultural 20 to intensive agriculture IA for approximately 87.58 acres within the legal description as provided in the agenda. And this is located near 1600 South, 500 West in Burrell.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Reed. Appreciate it. We'll next go to item number 4, public comments. This is a 3-minute time limit per speaker for public comment. Participants should not repeat others' comments, and this is only for items not on the agenda. Those that like to speak.
Hey guys,
How you doing?
Morning.
Dallin Staley. I don't know if this is the best place to start with this comment, but it's just kind of a personal thing here. So I live on the corner of, let's see, it's 1000 East and 500 North. So technically we're in Iron County, but we're kind of right there in the middle of Enoch. 1000 East is a half-mile road. So there's been a whole bunch of development there the last year, basically. Enoch's done a bunch of improvements to Half Mile Road that runs along the west side of our property. And then the county is building up and going to chip seal 500 North this summer, is what I understand. And I'm not very happy with what Enoch's done with their road, because when we get a bunch of rain, that was basically the flood channel for Enoch to take the water out to the north of us. And now the road is higher than our property. So we've got a bunch of water that's kind of coming off that road and into our property, which I know is probably not something the county can do a whole lot to help us there. But now on the north side, that road was also lower than our property, but is now quite a bit higher than our property. So we've kind of actually become kind of a retaining basin right in our yard, the way that those roads are. And so I guess the reason that I'm making the comment and bringing it up here, and hopefully this will go somewhere, is just as the county, they haven't, done any paving or chip sealing yet. But I would really, really like the county and maybe coordinate with Enoch a little bit to put in some good low cross gutters and stuff, so that it's not just a complete dam right there on the north side of our property, and try and have some way for water to move from our property and across the road and continue on. So anyway, I guess that's just my concern there.
So we did that on 800 Rich. So could you get up and let's talk about this for a minute? So we did one of those.
5,000.
It's 500 North, right? 5,000 North.
5,000. You're talking.
5,000 North.
Yeah, it's
okay.
5,000. 500 would definitely be inside the city
okay.
limits of Enoch.
Yeah,
But could we? I wonder if we could talk to Bruce about doing some dips in that road.
Well, I know where he's at, and where's your property?
It's right there on the corner of 5,000 North and 1,000, or 1,000 North. 1,000
Half mile
east,
and-
half mile and 5,000.
You missed a zero on both of those. Okay.
You're on the south or north side.
Say that again.
1,000 east, 5,000 north
Okay.
on the corner.
So it's on Half Mile.
Yep.
And are you on the south or the north?
We're on the east and the south side.
He's on the yeah.
You're on the east end where the curve of the road is.
He's on the south side of 5,000 north and on the east side of 1,000 east. Right on that corner.
He's on the south side, 5,000 north, right off Half Mile on the corner.
Yes.
All right. So I was thinking of the curve, because we talked about putting a culvert in there. and decided to keep all the water on the east-north side and head it north. All right, so we'll come out and look at that. They haven't done anything right there. There we go.
Sorry, I'm really not the good driver of this, but.
Thank you.
So,
Show us where your property is.
yeah.
Over and point to it.
So right here.
Okay, gotcha.
Go spread out a little bit.
Also that, so
This is the one where chip sealing, it's the Jones Road of 5200 North. This one, I would have to ask. I think they're just grading that one and have improved it.
oh, so they're not chipping that one right next to you?
I
Dell?
believe that was part of
Oh,
the
I don't know. I heard that they were, but
Well, you may be right. I mean, I've been mostly working on the 5200 and getting the water there. All right, I'll talk to the road crew.
So
I'll
that,
see what we can do.
so 5,000 North doesn't go all the way through. It tees
It
right
stops
there.
at,
Stops.
Yeah.
so this is the water's coming from the road and coming in here, but it can't go any further.
So where's it historically crossed 5,000, your water, the water? Right by the road?
Normally it would just come down to Half Mile Road, and Half Mile Road was kind of an unimproved road for the most part, so it would just come down
And just go across?
Right.
run out.
So would a culvert be better there at that intersection?
So right here on the church farm, there's a farm that's
Hmm.
running on. So it'd be better to just make it across Half Mile.
Kick it across
That's where
there.
it's improved right now because of the subdivision going on. They stopped the pavement right there at that corner. So, or nearly, they're close to that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of culverts because with all the tumbleweeds and stuff out there, if you get a good rainstorm, the culvert is always plugged. So
Yes,
if
we're well
if we
aware.
could do some like cross gutters or something that just can, handle
Move
the
that.
flow of water, and I guess we'll see what we can do to keep the water out of.
I wonder if we could do a dip in 1,000 East right there before the T, and so it diverts it into that borrow pit like you're saying, Rich.
It's really close to the boundaries. I have to talk to Rob about where our boundary is, and we did a trade with them for the chip sealing because that's definitely inside of Enoch. I'll call Hayden too. Okay.
Okay,
Just
Thank
thanks
you.
for the consideration.
okay.
Appreciate
Good
it.
to see you. Thanks, Dell.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Stellan?
Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 5, presentation regarding 2025 tax exempt status for Cedar City Hospital. Jameson Robinette,
Yes.
is that correct? Did I say that right?
Good morning. Good morning. Yep. For the record, Jameson Robinette, Cedar City Hospital president. Good morning. It's great to be here with you all to share about our annual presentation, also share some things that we have going on at the hospital. I had to gather myself for a minute before I got up here because in high school I worked at the wastewater treatment plant up in Davis County, and the full-time workers saved for the summer help, which I was, the job of cleaning out the digester. So as I heard the digester get brought up, it brought back a lot of old memories, and I'm happy I'm not summer help there anymore. It was a great experience, but really happy that I've progressed from that. So anyway, just a little bit about me before I get started in this annual report, because I am the new hospital president here. So I've been coming up right on 6 months. Originally, I'm from northern Utah. My wife is from southern Idaho. We met down here in southern Utah when we were going to school, and then by way of my career, we've moved all over the country, but our dream had always been to get back to southern Utah and also hopefully to get back to a small town. I grew up on a farm, and my wife as well. Her family still has a farm, so we wanted to get back to something like this, and let me tell you, moving to Iron County, Cedar City specifically for us, has been a dream come true. And there's a lot of great things going on in the hospital, which I'm excited to share about. So I can drive, or if someone wants to drive, I can just dictate next slide. What would be easier for whoever's driving?
Can you read? Do you know if he can drive that?
Well, where's his information?
Oh, it's on my computer, so I'm driving.
Okay, I'll just say next slide. Does that work? Okay. So we can go to slide 2 here. Is it possible to go into the presentation mode real quick, or if not, we can scroll down. I guess that's fine. Slideshow up here.
Oh, I think we got.
From current slide.
All right, and then if you just use the arrow key, you might be able to go back a slide.
Oh, you want to go back?
Perfect. Okay. So again, good morning. Anything we do at the hospital, we always start off with our mission, and I love our mission. It's that we are here to help people live the healthiest life possible. We do serve as a hospital, but our goal is to not have the members of Iron County or the residents of Iron County in our hospital. We want them to be healthy, living the lives that they're meant to live down here in this beautiful area. Next slide. Here is our board of trustees. We have had some changes recently, and actually really quick, I do have some members of our team here, and I would be very remiss if I did not introduce them. So first, we do have our board chair, Caleb Reese, here with us. And then we have our manager of marketing and communications, Rochelle Hughes, and then Craig Corey, our finance director, is here with me as well. Here's our board. Just to call out some of our new board members who have come on and some changes of face. So Darren Adams was our board chair. He has termed out, and we were so grateful for his service. Caleb's our new board chair. Scott Levitt with Southwest Tech is our new vice chair. And then new members who have just recently come on, Miss Latasha Mayo, she is with the Paiute tribe. She is their health director. And then Justin Ludlow from Cedar City Police Department, who's also Cedar City High School's resource officer. And then Jeanette Stubbs from Iron County School District has joined our board. So we are so excited to have them, specifically with some partnerships we have coming up. And then our other board members, we're very grateful for the contribution they provide to the hospital. Next slide. All right. So what we're here presenting about, and just to base with you all, which you all are very well familiar with, is we are a nonprofit institution. We help meet the diverse needs of the communities by providing excellent care at the lowest appropriate cost, regardless of an individual's ability to pay. And that falls into our nonprofit mission. Next slide. So what categorizes us as a nonprofit versus some of the for-profit healthcare institutions is that the community is our shareholders, truly. If you were to boil it down into one sentence, the community is our shareholders, and that's where any profit that we make, it reinvests back into the community as a side to the shareholders. Actually, a report was done just recently by Yale University and the American Medical Association that for-profit healthcare institutions, 95% of their profits went towards their shareholders as opposed to back into the community. Over the last several years, that amounts to about $2.2 trillion in shareholder profits. And so when we talk about where we're putting our funds, we do give it back to the community. And I won't crosswalk through each of those, but that is our big difference that we will call out. And I've worked for a for-profit healthcare institution, a lot of great things going on, but that is the fundamental difference is that any profit we recognize, we bring back to the community. Next slide. Okay, so a little bit about Intermountain globally and our work as a nonprofit for our community benefit. A lot of times there is I don't want to say a misperception, but there's not the acknowledgement that nonprofits do pay taxes on property, income taxes, things like that. And so as an institution, Intermountain paid $469 million in taxes in 2023. We don't have 2024 number right there just because Intermountain as a whole hasn't filed its 990. They do that in the fall. And so for 2023, that's why it's $469 million. And then $746 million was invested in community benefit for Intermountain as a whole, which is twice of what the state requirement was and the federal requirement was. Next slide. This is a snapshot of us here locally at Cedar City Hospital. Property tax paid approximately $635,000. And then our charity care, which I'll get into a little bit more, over $6 million in 2024. And that's not just bad debt, that is straight charity care. Next slide. A little snapshot of the work we're doing at the hospital and the impact that we have on the community that we serve here in Southwest Utah. So we had over 200,000 patient encounters in our facility, and our outside looking in sometimes can be viewed as small. It is anything but that. 200,000 encounters, just short of 500 caregivers on our team. And then you can see our impact broken down into what we call our key indicators. 2,000 hospital admissions, delivered just over 800 babies at 830, 3,000 surgeries. We saw 21,000 emergency department visits, and 2,000 of those were individuals in behavioral health crisis. And then 388 unique individuals treated for cancer care at our cancer center. Next slide. This year is, as one of the federal requirements for being a nonprofit, we do our community health needs assessment. This is our community health needs assessment year, so we've been working with our local community Southwest Department of Health partners as well as community agencies to gather information on the needs of Iron County and our service area. We have a summation meeting with our internal stakeholders on Friday where we're going to look at the report and start finalizing that, but we should have a community health needs assessment report to share with you all towards the end of the year. I'm not a betting individual, but if I were to bet, I would bet heavily that mental health will continue to be at the top of our needs in the community. And things that we're doing specifically within our emergency department expansion is we're increasing our behavioral health rooms, which is really, in the saddest way possible, the safest place for an individual in a behavioral health crisis in Iron County. We're increasing that count from 1 to 4. We average about 2 to 3 behavioral health holds every day in our emergency department.
So one thing on that.
Yes, sir.
So I'm on the 5-county behavioral health board,
Okay.
and we just finished a receiving center in Washington County. Have you
Yes.
noticed and we probably haven't noticed as much as they have, but that's another option where you can send people
Yes.
for
Yes.
help that are in need of help versus going to the jail or the hospital. Transport's a little bit of an issue from here, but that's an awesome resource down there. The director does a great job, and that's an option.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that you're a part of that. I would love to actually lean in and get the hospital involved because I think that we could be a little bit more involved in those spaces. We sent our first patients there over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and we've received great feedback from our ER caregivers. And continue to see how that service grows, and if it's something that at some point maybe we as a facility might want to emulate here in Iron County.
I know law enforcement is a little tricky for them because it's hard.
Transport.
It ties up their resources to transport, but families can transport their own, family members or other ways. But it's a great thing.
And it's significantly more cost advantageous to the patient to go to
Right.
that facility as opposed to the emergency department.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. I'm excited to chat with you more about that and hopefully get to work together on that. Okay, so we talk about our community benefit and our community gift, and I will speed up here a little bit. It does not go into straight charity dollars. While that is what we report out on our tax statements and for our charity care and for our tax exempt, we do like to highlight our total community gift. And that's things that are community education and services, things that we're doing. The one that I was been most excited about was Jordan Merrill, our manager of community health. He actually did a presentation with all of the coaches at Southern Utah University about 6 months ago on how to identify suicidal behaviors in athletes and ways that we can intervene on those. Charitable contributions, community health improvement, several grants that we have from Intermountain Health go into the community to 4 Points, to family health care, to other agencies, time in our community, as well as medical discounts. Next slide. So here's our quantified amount broken into buckets. Community service, about $200,000. For clinics serving underserved populations in our partnership with them, that's another $145,000 approximately. Health professional education, close to $1 million. We are investing heavily in education for healthcare professionals because we need them. That is the future. We are going to only have more patients as we have aging populations, and so we need to be on top of that with our workforce. And that's specifically why we brought Ms. Stubbs onto our board, is to partner closer with Iron County School District to educate young members of Iron County on jobs that can be available to them so they can stay here and where they will be able to support their families. And then volunteer service as well, another $100,000. Next slide. Just a little bit more of our total gift. You can see the charity care, which I already spoke to. Our total gift to the community, if you sum all of it, was just about over $67 million. if you look at the value that is provided from having the nonprofit health system here in the community. We do have a lot of capital investment that is going into the facility right now, which is very needed to meet the growing needs of our communities, which I'll talk about in a second. And then while we don't report this, you can see our uncollected bad debt. We aren't in the business of going after individuals who might not be able to pay for their healthcare services. And that's just under $9 million that we provided to residents of Iron County and greater Southwest Utah in 2024. Next slide. I spoke about our capital investments that are going back into the facility, into the community, which I'm very excited to report out about. We are underway with our ER expansion, which will add 9 new rooms and those behavioral health rooms. Right now, if you look at our greatest need on campus as far as what's limiting the growth and providing more healthcare services is space for providers. We do not have any medical office space. And so therefore we see a lot of patients or a lot of Iron County residents who have to travel for healthcare. To solve that, we're building a medical office building. It will consolidate all of our primary care services and open up about 5 to 7 additional clinics where we will be recruiting some specialists so that someone doesn't need to travel to St. George for basic GI care or for urologic care or for cardiac care. We're investing heavily in that because that is my vision for the hospital, is to keep as many people in Iron County as possible. Other projects that we have underway, we are expanding our cancer center. Our cancer center here in Iron County is the second busiest in all of the Intermountain system. When you look at it, Bryce Perkins, who's our oncologist, is one of the busiest oncologists in the state of Utah. And the work he does is truly magnificent. So we are expanding our infusion suite this summer. We are actually already underway with improving or changing out our linear accelerator, which is for radiation patients. Again, that will allow us to increase the number of patients we do every day so that, that's a service where someone will come in for several weeks every day. And that's the difference if you have it in your community between you being able to work out with your employer, hey, I'm going to go away for 30 minutes to an hour, I'll be right back, versus if I have to travel to St. George, I'm going to have to look at a leave of absence. So we're very happy about that. And then we're bringing our PET CT trailer in-house with a full-time PET CT scanner. We've got that several years ago as a trial, and because of the oncology program, that has proven to be a very high need for the community, so we're bringing that in-house, and that will be in the 4 walls of the hospital, and adding a second CT scanner as well. Next slide. So you are all familiar with this. I know Commissioner Blake and Commissioner Cousins, you've been with these presentations when my predecessors have been here. Ken, we've had the opportunity to chat a little bit about this as you've come on. So if you have any questions, feel free to stop me. Otherwise, I'll just briefly highlight the 6 Utah requirements for the nonprofit status, which we do satisfy. So next slide. So let's just go to the next slide because it highlights them individually. So the first one is that a hospital must establish that it is organized as a not-for-profit basis to promote healthcare, provide health-related assistance, dedicated its property to charitable purposes, and provide hospital care, which hopefully my presentation has satisfied. Next slide. We must organize ourselves as a 501c3, and we are organized as such. Next slide. The hospital, that none of the net earnings or no donations made to it inures to the benefit of private shareholders or other individuals, which we do not. The institution must establish that it admits and treats the public without regard to race, religion, or gender, is based on clinical judgment of a physician, not to a patient's ability to pay. Indigent persons who, in the judgment of a physician, require services available, receive those services for no or reduced charged in accordance with their ability to pay. And then the institution must provide evidence of how it informs the public of its open access policies and services for the indigent, which we have at every one of our registration areas. Next slide. The institution must establish that policies integrate and reflect the public interest, which we can provide more information, but hopefully my presentation had satisfied that. Next slide. And I highlighted this, but the institution must establish that the total gift is greater than our tax liability, which it is both as a system for Intermountain as well as locally here at Cedar City with our $6 million in charity care and then our estimated property tax that we do pay. Next slide. And then satellite healthcare facilities and centralized support facilities are entitled to tax exemption if it is shown that facilities enhance and improve the hospital's mission. And that is as such. We don't have very many satellite facilities. Our goal is that no one should have to drive further than 10 minutes in Iron County to receive healthcare services. So we're actively underway on that mission and in that endeavor with some of our city partners to see where we might be able to help act on that vision, which is a very real vision for us, and we will achieve that. So as satellite facilities may pop up, they will further contribute our mission. Next slide. And then just a big old thank you from Cedar City Hospital and all of our caregivers. It is Caregiver Week, so if you do happen to know any caregiver at the hospital, make sure you reach out to them and share a happy Caregiver Week with them, because the work they do is truly heroic. Quickly, to wrap up, I will just highlight that we are incredibly proud to offer to Iron County the fact that we are a top 20 small community hospital in the country. And there is only one hospital in the country that has been recognized as a top 20 small community hospital for the last 10 years, and that's Cedar City Hospital. And a lot of individuals have asked us, well, how can that be? And it truly is because we have amazing caregivers who love their community, love the people they serve, and love the people they serve with. And it is just an honor for me to be able to stand alongside them and to help support them as they are doing such a heroic work. So that is my presentation, and I will open it up for any questions.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. But I really appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you.
I interact with hospital staff, especially the ER, regularly in my role with the medical examiner's office and law enforcement. My wife's been an employee of Intermountain for 25 plus years. We've always just been a big family, and I really appreciate everything you do.
Well, thank you.
And
thank you.
and I do. I've got some other discussion, but I'll make an appointment.
Yes,
I'll come in and visit you.
Great. And I know the sentiment is shared from our ER staff, and specifically on that tragic night when that young lady passed away. You were there, I know, and I was actually out of town that week, but just having your presence there was very well received by our caregivers, and they were very appreciative.
Oh, good. Yeah, those things suck. There's too many of those recently.
It's horrible.
Yeah, no, they're great. I really, there isn't anybody in the ER that's unpleasant to work with.
Absolutely.
They're great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jameson. Do you have any?
No, thank you.
Okay.
We appreciate that. I noticed, Shadil, is this, do we vote on this? Usually we vote to approve this, don't we? Or is that at another time? Or
No, this is just, I think, just as a requirement. As a requirement to maintain the nonprofit status, they present and we say thank you. And
I remember that, but I've also remembered to vote. We actually have a vote on it too, but I remember doing that in the past. But okay.
Sorry, I'm not aware of that.
Nah.
Yeah, to your point, Commissioner Cousins, we do submit the paperwork. I think it's just by process of signature.
Okay. Okay.
So, and I don't think we had any concerns there.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay.
Well, if you don't mind, let me leave you with my card.
That'd be great.
Has my cell phone. I'll have Catherine reach out to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, I do. Thank you.
Anyone else in the county?
I just remember we voted.
I haven't ever on this.
Thank you.
Thought we had.
Yeah, they just have to present it. That's part of their requirement, just to give us an update every year. I just remember because we've had that conversation before. So they just, it's a requirement to give us an update.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you very much for that. We'll go to agenda item number 6, presentation preview of the 2025 Larry H. Miller Summer Games by John Oglesby.
Morning, Commissioner Cousins, Commissioner Robinson, Commissioner Blake. It is John Oglesby with the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University. It's a pleasure to be here this morning just to give a short preview of this year's Summer Games. In advance, I didn't do as formal a presentation as Jameson at the hospital, mainly because this is more informal, because a lot of what I wanted to do today was just say thank you. First off, I want to say thank you while he's still outside, or they're somewhat outside there, to Intermountain Health, the Cedar City Hospital in Jameson. Since he's come on board, he has been very supportive of a variety of community initiatives, with the summer games being a part of that, and want to tell him thank you on the record for that. We're very excited for this year's summer games. There's a few high points that I definitely want to hit. As always, the first thing I want to do is say thank you, and say thank you to you as the commissioners. Say thank you, and I'm very happy that Maria is in attendance this morning. The support we get on so many different levels from Iron County, from Visit Cedar City, Brian Head as the tourism DMO, is incredible. And it's allowing us to do great things that I honestly believe are positively impacting life for both participants in our program, but also for citizens who may not have a day-to-day attachment with the summer games in the university. So many exciting things this year that we're already starting to see. We're seeing record numbers. We had record numbers starting in March with wrestling. Our high school basketball tournament is up over last year, seeing record numbers in our fast pitch softball tournament. We announced a partnership the other day with the Las Vegas Raiders, where the Raiders will take over presenting sponsorship for our new 7-on-7 football as well as girls flag football events. We think this is just the start of what we hope is a continually growing partnership with the Raiders organization. And to get an organization like that that is invested in our programming, that is invested in our community and our county, I think is extremely exciting and should be exciting for all of us and what we're going to see in the coming years. Mixed with the record number of growth that we're seeing in many events, I want to talk for a minute and particularly highlight Maria and her work on the Visit Cedar City Brian Head side with the partnership with Special Olympics Utah. So we went into this partnership with high expectations. We knew it was going to be able to provide a great experience for individuals with intellectual disabilities from around the state and their families. What we're seeing is what we have to offer in the county with the experience is so great that we are seeing more and more people as part of the Special Olympics Utah community wanting to come, to the point that Maria and I, Maria in particular, we've had to work very closely with hospitality partners to be able to make sure that we can house all of the participants that want to come participate in the activity. That's a great problem to have for our county, to have way more people than we even initially anticipated coming that are hungry to experience what we're doing as part of that partnership. And so the Special Olympics event that I want to bring up note, Thursday, May 29th will be a law enforcement torch run. They have their own opening ceremony that'll take place that night. They have a variety of different events that we'll be emailing out to all of you as commissioners just for you to be able to attend if you're available. The Special Olympics weekend will conclude on Saturday, May 31st with a 5K, 10K, which is part of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games, but will also raise dollars for Special Olympics Utah, particularly in the southern area part of the state. That's in conjunction with a partnership with First Lady Abby Cox's Show Up Foundation. Very grateful for the First Lady and her foundation for being very supportive of the work we're doing there. Then for all the commissioners as well as the general public, we want to invite the entire county out to Eccles Coliseum on Friday, June 6th for the opening ceremony presented by our good friends at State Bank of Southern Utah, the largest fireworks show ever in Summer Games history. That's what we're going to have this year. So we're excited to hopefully have all of you out as our guests, and as well as the entire county out to experience a tremendous celebration of one of our county's truly iconic properties, being the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games. Want to raise a couple things of note before open it up for questions. The first thing I want to say is this, is we, again, working with Maria, working with Commissioner Blake and many of the other tourism designated tax boards and such, have definitely heard the call for us to take a much more proactive stance in creating opportunities to grow hospitality spending in the county. Because of that, you are seeing now that our program, which 2 years ago ended after the second weekend of June, now spanning every weekend in the month of June. We have programming pretty much going from this weekend till the 4th of July. In addition, we've added a number of midweek and early week events to try to specifically help on the the hotel side. It may help the hospital unconnected, but particularly with our football events, but help the hotel side to really be able to drive midweek and early week occupancy, which seems to be the greatest need for our hospitality partners, but also the biggest opportunity for us to see TRT growth, et cetera. So looking at all of that, we're tremendously excited for this summer. We think we have tremendous things to come. I can't say again on a personal and professional level how tremendously grateful we are for the county's continued support, for the support we get from Visit Cedar City Brian Head. It's a tremendous time to be all working together, and I'm excited to see what we're all able to accomplish as we continue to make positive things happen for citizens in our county. So with that, I'll open it up if there's any questions or comments. And by the way, all of the events that I spoke about, we'll be emailing you all personal invites to as well, but just wanted to make sure folks knew you were invited.
What time do we need to be there that night?
So the VIP reception, which is presented by State Bank of Southern Utah, starts at 6:30. We'll line up for the sponsor walk that the commission is invited to at 8 o'clock, and then the formal show starts at 8:30.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate that. That's great. This is a really great thing for our community and many, many years. And grateful to those who have started it and keep it going. So
thank you.
I have said it a million times. I really appreciate John and his work with the summer games. I think you're a little maybe too giving to Maria. It's fine. No, I just, you've really rejuvenated the event, and yeah, just couldn't be more happy and more excited to work with you moving forward. It's been awesome. And Maria's all right too.
She's a great steward and representative of the county in terms of making sure that we're making good decisions, and so I appreciate her being a valued advisor on the best interests of the county.
How many participants this year are you anticipating?
We're hoping we set a growth. Basically, we had a double-digit growth last year. We think that's attainable for this year. There's no doubt. There's some different socioeconomic things happening that we're hoping to be able to navigate with people trying to make decisions on their summer tourism spending. But based on what we're seeing on registration looks healthy, particularly I would say in our team sports, which are really our bread and butter when it comes to tourism spending. So we're hoping to post another double-digit growth this year, particularly with the addition of the 7-on-7 football and girls flag football. We were already over 20 teams at 7-on-7 football before we announced the partnership with the Raiders last week, and have received a lot of interest, particularly from the Las Vegas Valley, as far south as Southern California, definitely northern Utah as well. And so I'm excited to see those numbers continue to hopefully grow over the next few weeks.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you all, and feel free to reach out to me if I can do anything for each of you, but thank you for the county's support.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
All right, appreciate that. Number 7, discussion of possible approval of the SS4A, Safe Streets for All, Safety Action Plan for Iron County, presented by Rich Wilson and Kimley Horn.
So, as you know, we've been working on this for the last several months and have come to a conclusion. And part of the just for a quick, brief explanation, Safe Streets at All is a federal grant through the Federal Highway Commission, which we received last year to sponsor the study plan. The study plan is required before you can do any implementation or demonstration of solutions. We did this county-wide and utilizing partnerships with Parowan, Paraguna, Enoch, and Cedar City. So we now have the conclusion. What we need to do is accept the plan so that we can go forward into the funding phase of implementation. We call it implementation, but it's really a misnomer because there's two sides of this. There's implementation and demonstration, and one is simpler to obtain, which I'll let Eric explain to you. So they've come with a presentation, a short presentation, so I'll turn it over to Eric Sweat.
Thank you, Rich, and good morning, commissioners. as Rich introduced, my name's Eric Sweat with Kimley Horn and Associates. We were brought on board to help the county in development of the safety action plan as part of this grant. Rich and Reed have been fantastic to work with. We've moved very quickly in anticipation of getting this done in time to allow jurisdictions in the county to then apply for the next round of funding, which is open right now. And with a deadline in June, so we're working towards that. But happy to present a summary of the plan thus far and what's been compiled and thought through with the stakeholders and with the county. I'm happy to be interrupted if you have questions as we go. Try not to be too long here, but want to give a background of everything completed thus far. As Rich mentioned, there's two types of grants available through this FHWA discretionary grant program. The first being what they call planning and demonstration grants, and that's what was awarded to the county last year to develop the plan. And then the second being implementation grants, which are then you can apply for, the county or an agency can receive funding to actually implement safety improvements and strategies to the transportation network that are identified in a plan. Rich did mention there is a caveat to the planning and demonstration grants. You can do some activities of implementation. You can test certain strategies and projects under that umbrella of a planning and demonstration grant. And I believe that's what the county will pursue in this next round of funding, and we're on board to help with that. So why are safety action plans needed? The data you see there is specific to Iron County, but nationwide there was a trend that FHWA noticed that even with the reduced amount of traffic on roadways during COVID, so peak 2020 and 2021, the fatalities and the serious injuries experienced on transportation networks continued to rise. So that brought to the forefront questions on why. And safety action plans are intended to address the why. Why are fatalities and serious injuries happening? Where are these risky areas? What can we do to address them? So although our vehicle miles traveled and our traffic on roadways was decreasing, those injuries continued to rise. So as part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, FHWA funded 5 years worth of this discretionary grant program called Safe Streets and Roads for All. We're in year 4 right now, so there's one more year of funding in 2026. That's already been set aside. They set aside $5 billion nationwide to do this. There's been many communities in Utah that have done it, and Iron County was successful in their application for this. Specific to Iron County, you can see a similar trend. There was a decrease in 2020, actually, when the vehicles and less traffic was on the roadway with COVID. But since we've continued to rise and are trending in the wrong direction. This graph goes through 2023. We actually know 2024 now that that's been processed. The numbers stayed about the same. Actually, fatalities decreased, but our serious injuries increased. So in total, stayed about the same. So the goal of the safety action plan is to address fatalities and serious injuries, particularly of the transportation network. A quick background on this, what FHWA now calls the safe system approach. It's really a shift in planning and engineering that they are implementing nationwide to help address some of these problems. There's 5 key principles of the safe system approach. We want to incorporate safer people, safer vehicles, safer speeds, safer roads, and have better access to post-crash care. Those 5 principles have 6 supporting aspects of it. They understand that responsibility is shared, that safety is proactive, redundancy is crucial, that death and serious injuries are unacceptable, that humans make mistakes, and that humans are vulnerable. So this is a shift in planning and engineering where maybe in previous years, as you can see on the graphic on the left, our traditional approach to addressing these concerns we'd try to prevent all crashes. And it's now understood we're not going to do that. We're all humans. We're behind the vehicle. People are distracted or falling asleep or whatever. We're humans and we make mistakes. But we do want to focus on preventing death and serious injuries. Instead of trying to improve everyone's behavior, we realized that we have to design for those mistakes to happen. Unfortunately, we're not going to change everyone's driving behavior or bicycling behavior or whatever it may be, but we have to design for those mistakes and limitations. Instead of controlling everyone's speeds, we'd like to reduce the energy when a crash happens, meaning the crash will happen, but we'd rather it not be 50 miles per hour T-bone at an intersection. You know, maybe it could be a 15 mile per hour crash at a roundabout or a different type of intersection. Instead of holding only the individuals responsible, we want it to be a shared responsibility, meaning not just the drivers, but the planners, the engineers, the county leaders, everyone has a responsibility in increasing safety of the transportation system. And the biggest maybe, instead of reacting solely based on crash histories, we want to be proactive and identify and address risky areas as well. So instead of being reactive in our planning approach, we try to be proactive. And you'll see some of that shine through in our approach here. As part of the SS4A grant program, it is required for a leadership or a council to take and adopt a regional safety commitment resolution. So we drafted with the county and with the stakeholders a resolution and proposed it to the Iron County Rural Planning Organization, knowing that all agencies had a representative there and with a focus on transportation particularly. The goal that was set in that safety commitment resolution was to reduce deaths and serious injuries for all roadway users by at least 50% by the year 2040. As part of the grant program, you do have to have a specific target date goal in your resolution, and that was what was decided upon with the stakeholders and with the county. It was adopted by the RPO in March. We are encouraging any local agencies, the cities, the jurisdictions, and potentially the county to adopt a similar resolution specific to your area. I'm going to step through a few of the key components of a safety action plan and what was done here in Iron County. It includes a detailed countywide safety analysis. Now, I'm not going to detail it for you all today, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions if you have them later. It's also a very comprehensive community and stakeholder engagement, and we'll get to a few of those items. It's identifying high priority safety concerns countywide, and then developing strategies and solutions to address those concerns that were identified. And in the end, this safety action plan for the county resulted in location-specific safety projects. We have 29 locations identified countywide with specific safety improvements, detailed cost estimates associated with them, et cetera, that the county or cities could then take and start programming and trying to find funding to implement. And then we also identified a handful of what we call case study projects, or they're common occurring issues in the county or locations where we have developed a standard set of principles and strategies that could be implemented at that area, and it's meant to be used countywide. You know, so we understand there's not just one four-way stop, that has an issue, but we identified strategies for a four-way stop that can be applied countywide at multiple locations, and we have a few examples we'll step through here. So the safety analysis, countywide safety analysis of all the roadways and intersections. It does include looking at the historic crashes because it can help tell us some trends and what's been happening in the recent years. We do what's called a network screening, where we basically compare intersections and roadways countywide against themselves to really highlight where there could be issues or where there have been issues. We looked at conflict areas. Now, this is the data that does not show up in a crash history report. Maybe there's a location with a history of near misses, or of pedestrians almost getting hit, or of vehicles almost getting hit, or just a high history of speeding or distracted driving. So this is part of the trying to be proactive and address those areas. And then also risk characteristics, where we looked at the characteristics of a roadway or an intersection and identified if there are certain characteristics or attributes of those locations that were leading to crashes. All four of those components used slightly different data and techniques to help analyze and help us arrive to what we call the high-risk network. To aid in identifying those areas outside of data, we also did robust engagement. We did advertising. We did a lot of online advertising. We took out an ad in Iron County Today for a week, online with the cities, with the county, and posting bulletins at a lot of areas. We did surveys, both online and in person. We had an online map, which you can see a snip on the right there of our map, where any user, residents, or business owners, or whoever it may be, could navigate to the map and identify an exact location and leave us a comment, you know, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they thought was needed, whatever it may be.
Is that still available?
The map is online. The comments are not open right now, but we'd be happy to hear information that you have for sure. Community events. So we ended up at an SUU basketball game on an evening. We were at storefronts in the west part of the county. We were here in Parowan for I think the city birthday celebration or luncheon. And then we also held workshops with the various jurisdictions. So we had a workshop out in Newcastle. We had a workshop here in Parowan. We had one in Cedar City. We had one in Enoch. We actually did 2 at each location, where we gathered the stakeholders, so city leaders or residents or planning commission members. We all joined together. The first workshop was to review the safety analysis and the data. The second was to review the projects that were selected and what they feel was implementable and useful for their area. All of that combined with the safety analysis helped us arrive at this high-risk network. And I know it's small, you're not going to be able to see it here, but we'll have an interactive map that you can zoom into these locations. It's also provided in the final report. The combination of all those aspects helped us arrive here, identifying roadway segments and intersections that we consider high-risk areas. So it's whether there's a high crash history or whether some of those proactive planning methods identified it as a potential issue or concern. From the high-risk network, we wanted to identify strategies and solutions that would help address those locations. Luckily for us, there's been a lot of people to do safety planning before us. We didn't, there's a lot of pools to draw from and good experience out there of what's worked and what hasn't worked, including Federal Highway Administration, agencies such as NHTSA, et cetera. So we developed what we call a countermeasure toolbox, countermeasure being something to implement in the roadway that would improve safety for a user. On the right, it's really small, but we had categories of countermeasures to help address speed management, intersection issues, roadway departure crashes, which are common in the county, pedestrians and bicyclists, and then also what we call cross-cutting or weaving in plans and studies as well. These strategies and solutions helped us arrive to the 29 locations, what we're calling project locations, that include specific strategies for that area. It includes a cost of those strategies and also the recommendations, so what can be implemented in the future. As an example, here's one location. This is Lund Highway north of Mid Valley Road as you kind of head north and northwest.
The map is turned on the side.
Yeah, north is pointing to the right there to make it fit. But these project sheets, which we developed, help summarize basically everything that I just flew through with you all for this particular location. So what is the crash history here? What are the reoccurring problems? Why was this location identified, whether it was part of the historic crash data or maybe it was a risky location, et cetera? What type of crash types are out here? Are there a lot of rear end crashes? Are there a lot of turning crashes, et cetera? We also detail any of the comments received in all of the engagement that we completed. And then we also identify other applicable locations or scenarios where these same improvements could potentially be implemented. And on the next page is all of these projects. So we went and visited each of these sites to see what was really out there. and to understand the context of how people were maybe driving or transporting in this part of the network. And then we end with recommendations for the area. It's a little blurry here, but you can see some of the recommendations in this area were extending the paved shoulder, adding the edge line striping. You can see in the photo there's no edge striping, that white stripe that's usually on a roadway there. Some signage improvements at the curves, etc. So each location was thought of individually, and specific recommendations were made for that location. And then based on cost estimates and planning level cost estimates, an opinion of probable cost for that project as a whole was developed. And then for a little ease of viewing, you can see for each project location, we have a map like this with the identified strategies and the locations that they are applied to. So 5 pages in total for each of those 29 locations. And they're spread throughout the county. And they're also spread throughout types of projects. There's some roadway projects, there's intersection projects, there's signalized intersection projects, etc. Trying to be diverse in solutions so that they can be applied to many places throughout the county. So those were the location specific areas. We also did some general case study information sheets. So we identified potential improvements and strategies for the following 6 scenarios that are common throughout the county. So what was heard in the engagement and also found in the crash data was that pedestrian and school crossings is a major concern. So we identified potential improvements for a pedestrian or school crossing of a roadway. And then the same for unsignalized intersections, signalized intersections, skewed intersections to major roadways. So where the road approaches a highway at an angle and it's hard to see for all users of that area. For 2-lane high-speed highways, so think Lund Highway or Iron Springs or even 56 in the west side of the county, where it's high speed, but we only have 2 lanes. And then for more of the urban areas in Cedar or Enoch, the 3 or 5-lane roadways, usually with a center 2-way left turn lane in the middle there. So specific strategies for each of those scenarios. So as an example, this is what the pedestrian and school crossing sheet looks like. And on these, we identify the different components that should be considered. Other considerations, if you're going to make these type of improvements, what type of impact may it have on drainage or parking or access or, items like that. And then listing specific locations around the county that these could potentially be applied to. So again, these are not intended for a specific identified location, but generally across the county. So that brings us to where we are today, where a final report has been assembled. The Safety Action Plan for Iron County does fulfill the requirements of the SS4A grant program for the county and for all the local jurisdictions within the county to be eligible to apply for the next round of funding. So the county's eligible to apply, and then also any of the, Enoch, Cedar, Parowan, any agency within the county that's fully within the county can apply for funding through this grant program. Now, that's open now. But in addition, we want the plan to live on outside of this grant program, and it can. It provides information useful for traditional funding sources for improvements as well. So whether it be through UDOT and some of their programs, the RPO list of projects, or even other federal sources of grants. The information in those project sheets and within this plan could help supplement what's needed for those applications. So currently the plan is being transitioned to the Iron County website so that it's available publicly there. Currently it's available at ironcountysafetyplan.com, which is the project website right now. But like I said, we're working with the county on getting that uploaded to both the maps and the engineering page so that this is all viewable for anyone who has access there. And that is all I have today. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or Rich, if you wanted to add any more detail or have me. Thank you.
So Eric, would you explain the difference between planning and demonstrative versus implementation? Why we're choosing to do demonstrative?
Sure. the two grant types, being this is the fourth year of the grant program, the implementation grants, as you can imagine, include the design and the construction. So the costs of those grants are much higher. FHWA is not allotting the same number of implementation grants as they are planning grants. You know, plans can get done a lot for a lot less cost than the implementation. So the implementation grants are going to be very, very competitive. But within the planning and demonstration grants, we are able to do testing of solutions as long as it's not permanent infrastructure changes. So things like testing new striping or new signage or what else do we have identified, Rich? Those were the two main components. Lighting, potential lighting, and potential temporary intersection improvements and crossings as well. Just as long as it's not a design of permanent infrastructure, those are available. And those grants are, there's a lot more of those being awarded by FHWA. So
it's a much more competitive process to get an implementation grant to perhaps put in a roundabout, for example, or to put in that crosswalk for pedestrian crossing with lights and signalizing. That would be a permanent structure. And last year, I believe, if I saw correctly, they awarded 70 of those nationally, where we would like to be able to implement things right away. And particularly what we're looking at is line striping, edge line striping. I've talked to, I thought that would be very helpful because most people who drive cars today, as Reed pointed out in a meeting recently, they have that line edge indicator when you're driving. And one of our problems is, as you saw on Lund Highway, almost 100%, in fact, I think it said 100% of the crashes were single vehicle road departure. And how much help that would be if there was a white line along the edge of the road. And that would not require us to put a extra asphalt or edging down. We would just put it out there at the limit, which would at least let people know they're approaching the edge of the road. There are interactive signage where you see those around town now that simply say, this is your speed. That's very helpful. Perhaps Commissioner Blake, you might speak to that. Is that truly as helpful as it seems? People are notified their speed?
Sometimes. Yeah, no, I mean, all of these things are really helpful, being, first-hand knowledge of the injury crashes and the fatalities. I think that pure education to the public, whether it's speed enforcement or whatever, I don't think is really that helpful. I think plans like this to address, just to address the infrastructure, I think this is a really good thing, because the traditional, ways of enforcement and things like that, as you can see, haven't really helped, especially with the increase of speeds and the increase of population. I think this is a really good thing to address those problem areas and something I would support wholeheartedly.
So we're also looking at besides that, how to get some funding for some intersection lighting, which will be helpful if we can get that. And those are demonstrative versus on the ground engineered structural changes. And so the other thing I'd like to mention is this, and we've talked to the cities and told them we wanted to be able to allow them to apply separately from us and use this as the umbrella planning in a way that we are not driving what happens in Cedar City or Enoch or Parowan. They would drive their own implementation or usage of this plan, and we would concentrate only on the county and that outside of the city limits.
So once you have this plan, then you can apply for implementation funding.
That's correct. Right. And that's why we're here today, is for the commission to approve the plan. Mm-hmm. And once you've approved the plan, then we can move forward to apply for the grant to do purchasing of these signs. For example, not all signage has to be interactive. Some of it might just be a flashing
Well, I was
Severn.
gonna bring that very thing up. I was coming home. Well, back when I was on the city council, I noticed on Cove Drive, a lot of people ran that four-way stop going up to the temple, and we added the flashing stop signs. I think that makes a huge difference. And I was thinking, I was coming back from the father and sons from Three Peaks the other night late with my grandsons, and that's so dark, that intersection of Mid Valley and Lund. And there's been people killed there. But I was thinking how advantageous that simple flashing stop sign was to alert you that there's if it wasn't flashing, it'd be easy to blow right through that.
Yeah.
So even those little things, I think, make a big difference.
We also discussed we had Sheriff Carpenter in our meeting where we were discussing this, and we talked about, like, for example, on 56, where you're coming up to some of those intersections. Comstock Road is coming in, where we may put just signage that says intersection ahead.
Right.
Those kind of warning signs. And we're looking at a holistic way to use this plan. And Bruce has been mandated to do striping on streets or roads that are over 40 miles an hour next year. So we felt that was a great application here, where we would apply for federal funding to pay for 75% of that instead of Iron County paying for 100% of it.
Right.
So we'll utilize it that way as well. So we're here to ask the commission to accept this plan as it is, so that we can move forward with obtaining funding for the next phase. You want to add something? Oh, there he is.
Not to belabor, but I wanted to mention one other thing that this plan does, and that is going forward, it allow us to track our improvements. So this isn't a one and done. We will have the opportunity through the dashboard and through getting the information on crash data and other information, so that each year the RPO can evaluate, have we been successful with any of these things? Are any of them working? Which ones are, which ones aren't? I think that's going to be one of the greatest aspects of this tool and this plan, is allow us to really evaluate and improve our opportunities to try to make it even better.
Have we seen a decrease in accidents on Mid Valley and Minersville Highway already with that roundabout there?
What we've seen
know
is,
Just
when I
curious.
talked to Rob about that, I don't know that we've had a decrease. I'd have to ask. What do you think, Sheriff Carpenter?
That's mostly Highway Patrol, mostly, or Enoch City that responds to that most of the time. The thing that it's done though is it's slowed the speed down so that accidents aren't nearly as serious as they've been in the past.
Yeah, at the beginning, Eric mentioned that the high velocity crashes. I think that this behavior of people just doesn't get modified very well, but that roundabout makes them side crashes versus T-bones and head-ons.
When I was in Australia and New Zealand a year and a half ago, it was interesting how many roundabouts they have. Even in the subdivisions, they have little roundabouts. They have them everywhere.
But you should
I
remember.
do confess, I almost started going the wrong way on the roundabout, because I was driving on the wrong side of the road, and I quickly corrected myself.
So, Commissioner Cousins, you must remember the standing cops, too. Do you remember the standing cops? Did you ever see any?
No. I don't.
So on Princess Highway and coming out of Fig Tree, there was a standing cop. They are about 18 inches high, a steel capped, looks like a mushroom, and it's at the corner of your intersection. You do not cut corners where you have that kind of an obstacle at the corner. We called them standing cops.
One item I failed to mention that is important. So the grant program is intentionally not eligible to DOTs. So UDOT is not able to receive any of this funding. It is intentional to be community focused, county, city, MPO driven. So, but with that, we obviously recognize a lot of the concerns or areas are on UDOT roadways, right? So we've been in talks with UDOT and they seem on board for the proposed improvements.
To that end, I spoke with Chris from UDOT, Chris Hall, and they may not be able to participate in offsetting costs, but they would be willing to sign a letter like for 56 or for Highway 20, where they would approve the addition of these safety measures. And that's one thing that would be very helpful, is we would be able to utilize these safety measures with UDOT's support, because we cannot put a sign up on UDOT property.
On the implementation grants, what's the match with the cities?
You
or
mean
county?
demonstrative, because we're not doing implementation.
Right, but when you do, what is the
It's a
match?
75-25 match. So, like I said, for Bruce to buy paint at 25% of his cost will be a big savings.
I think it may be 80-20, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
20% local. For both types of grants.
I
it
like
doesn't
to
matter.
get the commissioners prepared and then tell them there's less money involved.
Uses the flinch method on it.
That's right.
So that's our presentation. We ask you if you'll please sign this so that we can go into the grant application phase.
Very good. Any other discussion? Thank you very much.
I'll leave this, I'm sure Rich and Reed could answer any questions, but. in
Nice,
case
thank
as you're
you.
going through, you're
Thank you.
curious, we can help there.
Thank you.
All right, well, very good. If there's no more discussion, we'll entertain a motion on number 7.
Make a motion to approve Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan for Iron County.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Number 8, discussion and ratification of a local consent for a single event permit held at Wood Ranch on June 14th, 2025. This is requested by the Cedar City Elks Lodge. And this is a ratification on what?
This is a ratification. I doubt Cedar City Elks Lodge is even here.
Okay.
And so Paul did sign this, about 2 weeks ago, I do believe. And so the application process for the local consent, it takes 30 days with the state of Utah. And so he was right there at the deadline for the 30 days, and he was trying to be in compliance. However, it just didn't go through our proper channels of getting onto the agenda, so it did kind of miss an agenda. And so I will preach, use our proper channels, so ironcounty.net commission, and to get onto the agenda. So I think we're just approving this.
So I'll entertain a motion to ratify this.
So I would move to ratify the local consent for a single event permit held at Woods Ranch on June 14th, 2025 by the Elks Lodge.
Second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, we have
What's that?
nothing.
Screen left us.
Okay, number 9, discussion and possible approval of resolution 2025-5, a resolution supporting America 250 Utah, recognizing and approving of the Iron County Utah 250 Community Committee. Maria.
Thank you. So I'll be very brief, but 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States of America. And so, of course, there are going to be quite a few celebrations throughout the nation as well as in the state of Utah, and it trickles down, of course, to individual communities as well as the county. So I have teamed up with Councilman Scott Phillips from Cedar City to create a Iron County committee for that celebration. And in order for us to receive funding from the state organization, we do have to have a county resolution stating that we're creating this committee. The committee will create events starting with July of this year. The celebration goes clear through July of next year, July 6th. And we actually have events that are going to be taking place actually throughout the whole year, going into October. So, but you should have received the resolution, and we would just need that approval. We have lots of activities planned, and we do have a pretty robust committee. The state is asking that one commissioner serves on that committee for the county. I don't know who would like that honor, but
Do I get sucked into that because of our relationship?
probably because it is under tourism, and you think I'm just okay. So
Maybe I need to be there to manage you a little closer.
you have to apparently manage me a lot better than I've been managed. So if you wouldn't mind, that would be great.
Your prior affiliation.
I just do what Maria says. I want it on the record that she calls, I just jump, and
Oh, I
If
appreciate
you hadn't have volunteered, we'd have railroaded you anyway, Mike.
I know.
All
I
right.
think we had this conversation prior, actually, so that's fine.
Anyways, we would appreciate the signing of that resolution so we can go after so we can seek some funds. And we also appreciate Mike being on our committee. So
Okay, well, let's approve it. Who wants to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the resolution for the 2025-5A resolution supporting America 250, Utah recognizing and approving of the Iron County Utah 250 Community Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, Maria.
thank you.
Number 10, discussion possible approval of OHV. The R's gone, right?
You're gonna have to ask Mike.
Is the R on there or not?
It's on there.
Okay. OHVR then, recreation grant, a grant from the Utah Outdoor Recreation Division to assist in maintaining off-highway OHVR trails in Iron County, presented by Mike. Is that something I've already signed?
No, you may have. They sent it to you just the other day.
I think I did.
Okay, and that's fine.
So, I think I emailed it to you, and you said you were gonna present it in the meeting, but I may have signed that online already.
Yeah, and that's what they request. Anyway, commissioners, good
Morning.
morning
Still
still. This grant is kind of like it comes twice a year, and we usually jump into it and get some money for it to help maintain the OHV or the ATV trails in the county. I meet with the Forest Service and the BLM every year to identify places on the trail that need maintenance, either high or low, or everything else is all right. And so what this grant does, it provides funding for that purpose, and it also allows us to switch out our old equipment for newer equipment when it gets worn down and needs to be traded before we have to put a bunch of money into it. So what this grant does, it allows for $30,000 to purchase a new OHV. The older OHV, I've talked to the road department to see if they want to purchase it or put some money towards this grant to get a new ATV, in which Bruce agreed to do. They use it as a backup when they do work out in the hills or whatever else, to get up and down the hills to fuel their equipment and whatever else. So, and then this year I asked for some funding for an equipment operator to do the trail work. What I have in mind is similar to what Garfield County is doing. They hire an individual that is retired, where he can work whenever he wants, whatever his schedule fits. It isn't an 8 to 5 job all day. It's whenever they get the time to do it, and they can work through the summer to do that. And so that's what I've got in mind with this. And then it's got fuel for the OHV and the equipment, the Mini X and the skid steer. And it also, this year, we're replacing the Carsonite signage to metal posts, 2-inch metal posts. Last year, the OHV grant gave us a post pounder, a gas post pounder, and works great. And so we're going to replace all the Carsonites with them metal posts because they don't get rubbed down by cows or shot up as much as the old Carsonites do. So there's funding in there to purchase new posts, new decals that would go on the posts, and then some signage. And then also the skid steer, Cat has come out with a 6-way blade, smart blade, and so I've asked for some funding to try that out, and if it works, then this summer when the next grant comes around, I'll put some money in to purchase it. So, and that's just about it. The total cost of the grant is $94,364.75.
The grant portion that the state would give us would be $70,864, and we would come up with $20,500, which some of what the road department would give covers that. My salary that I get from my contract covers a good portion of that also. So it's a minimum cost to the county, what we do on that. And with your approval, I'll tell them yes, and they'll sign it and send it back to us.
Okay.
Right.
I'll entertain a motion on this one.
I'd move for approval of the OHVR Recreation Grant from the Utah Outdoor Recreation Division to assist in maintaining off-highway trails in Iron County, and that to our portion is $70,864.
No, that's the grant portion, the state's portion.
Oh.
Our portion would be $20,500.
Oh, well, that's what I meant. That's what we're awarded with a match of $20,500.
Right.
Is that correct?
And the total amount is $94,000.
$94,364 or 75. That's my motion. Figure that out.
Second
Chanel.
Good. I'm impressed.
You second that motion?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chanel.
Yes.
Some of these things come online to sign, and I can't remember if we've talked about them all the time. Personnel, Jennifer.
Hello. I'll cover first items 1 through 5 for your consideration before moving on to 6 on the agenda, if that's okay. In the attorney's office, Delane Smith was selected from the most recent competitive recruiting and selection process to backfill the vacant full-time legal assistant position effective May 12th, 2025. In the fair department, Kimberly Trower and Kayleen Cox were selected from the most recent competitive recruiting and selection process to fill the part-time administrative assistant marketing positions. Kimberly effective May 27th and Kaylin effective May 12th, 2025. In the road department, Braxton Brindley was selected from the most recent competitive recruiting and interview selection process to backfill the vacant maintenance worker 1 position effective May 27th, 2025. In the Sheriff's Office Patrol, Mason Berg and Sheena Temple were selected from the most recent competitive recruiting and selection process to backfill the vacant full-time Patrol Deputy 1 positions, effective May 12, 2025, and Adam Inglaze was selected to fill an upcoming vacancy, which will hopefully, I think, is happening in the next month or so, vacancy for a full-time Patrol Deputy 1 position on May 12, 2025. In the Sheriff's Office Corrections, Olivia McLean was selected from the most recent competitive recruiting and selection process to backfill the vacant full-time Corrections Medical Technician position effective May 12th, 2025.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on any of those? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the personnel changes as outlined in the agenda.
1 through 5.
Through 5.
Okay.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you. For the last on the agenda, a request has been made to update the Christmas Eve work schedule from a partial day to a full day, which would be 8 hours as outlined in policy. If December 24th falls on a Monday through Thursday, then it would cover those hours. If Christmas Eve falls on a Friday, the offices will already be closed in observance of Christmas Day. So with your consideration, if approved, the update on section 24 will mirror what we talked about today, and I sent you that on Friday for your perusal on that. So the only time offices would be closed for this particular reason for a 4-day weekend would be if the 24th falls on a Monday. So that would be the only caveat to that, and it would be a 4-day stint. But do you have any questions for that?
No.
So.
Okay.
No, I'd move for approval to update policy section 24 holidays to include Christmas Eve update as described by Jennifer.
Second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any county boards that we need to talk about? No closed session, Sam?
No, sir.
Great. Well, Chair declares this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
That meeting this afternoon with the Natural Resources Board is in the church auditorium at SU at 2:00.
Okay.
Church auditorium.
It's just
So it's-
off the rotunda.
It's right off the rotunda in the Charwan Smith Center.
Smith Center. Okay.
Yeah, kind of
Church is in
Sterling.
Sterling
Yeah.
Church. Okay.
Yes.
Couldn't remember his name.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's over in that corner. I'm sure there'll be folks there. But that's at 2:00 in the church auditorium.
I should remember his name.
And that is what's that called again? The